Welcome to Newsmakers. I'm your host, Lisa Oligas. In this edition, we take a look at the benefits of exercising in water and aquatherapy. We'll talk with a YMCA class instructor and participant, as well as a student utilizing training in a physical therapy setting, and others who have found the pool as a place for lifetime fitness. Joining us to get the conversation started are Letha Demir with the Joplin Family YMCA and class participant Jerry Ryder. Ladies, thanks for being here with us today.
Thank you for having us.
So Letha, your class is called Boot Camp.
That's
and
correct.
Sweating in the Deep.
That's
in
correct.
Fact, her nickname is Sarge, everybody. How did you get that? I mean, you've been doing this a long time.
I have been doing this for about 8 or 9 years, and my method of instructing might be slightly different than most, hence the name Sarge, but it is boot camp, and it is not your mama's aquasize class. We work very hard.
So how long have you been doing water workouts yourself, and what turned you on to doing a water workout?
Well, in about 2012, this has been going on longer than that, but I could not walk in about 2012, and I wasn't sure what the pain was in my right leg. So I had a CAT scan, and then I was told that I had blockage. And then I went to a cardiologist, and he told me in layman's terms that my leg was having a heart attack and I needed surgery. So after about 3 tries in surgery, Dr. John Foreman at Freeman was able to do a double vein bypass. So that is when I was a smoker. And he said, you know, if you want to lose your leg, have another cigarette. So at that point, I quit, and I haven't had one since. That started me at the Y. This was before the surgery. In a dream, and I know it was God in a dream, I never would have thought of the Y. I never would have thought of water. But in this dream, I was told, if you can't walk, swim. And the next day, I went to the Y, and they gave me 3 free passes. And I got in the water and met a wonderful lady named Pat who helped me, and people were just put in my path. And another lady from Wyandotte, Oklahoma, she was an aquasize teacher. She showed me the noodle exercise with the leg. She said, you do this and you get that leg strong and you'll get through surgery faster. And I did what she said. And then I had the surgery, and I just stayed with the Y, and I've been there ever since.
Well, you do a really extensive class, and it starts with a warm-up, and we have some video of the class. Take us through the class, starting with your warm-up. There's a lot to it. Why is the warm-up so important? And tell us why you do some of the things you do.
Well, we have music. I love music. That helps with all of the exercises that we do. We start with the arms. I work the arms, bicep, tricep. We have to start loosening up the fascia. The fascia is like, from how I see it, it's like netting. They're layers of netting. It's all over our body. And if you don't move it and liquefy it, it gets sticky. And if you really don't move it in a long span, it can atrophy. So when we warm up, we are warming up that fascia. We're warming up the muscles. So that's very important before you start working.
And you do the fingers,
yes,
the wrists, the thumbs.
Yes. And if you will do this with your fingers and you'll hold your wrist, you can feel those muscles working. It's not just about the limbs, it's the muscles that go all the way up.
Yeah. Some people want to just get to the heart. So if Jerry is a member of the class, do you feel benefits from the warm-up? Do you feel like it's an important step?
Definitely. You couldn't do the second part if you don't do the first part. You would be very hindered by it because you do need to warm up and get your muscles warm and hot, and breathing hard, breathing harder, get the heart muscle going more. And then you're able to go down and do that deep water work.
So you stretch out the back, really important.
Oh,
there.
very important. Yes. That spine, which also is encased with the fascia. And so we will stretch that back and roll that back and get that spine hydrated, liquefied. And then when we start doing those exercises, we are nice and loose, and we're not going to hurt ourselves.
So then we have weights. Now they're foam, and you see they look light as a feather.
Yes.
But in the water, how do you use them, and how
Well,
does it make a difference?
This is what maybe a beginner would use, and it's a very lightweight. This is single, so it's very easy to, we we pump. We
Right.
will go in and out and
got some video
forward.
of that.
And
You guys
yes,
working with
yes.
it? Mhm.
And so then this one would be the beginner, and then this one. Oh, sorry. just kidding.
Not quite that heavy.
This one is one of the hardest ones, and you get this full of water, and you know you are working out. So this is one of the hardest ones.
There is resistance
Oh,
when you're
for
using
sure.
these weights.
Yes, and I have been told that it's approximately 8 pounds per gallon that we are working against when you move those arms and legs in the water. It's so much more resistant than just doing air.
Jerry, I mean, they seem light, but do they have an impact? Do you feel it? Do you get sore
Yes.
the next day?
Yes. When she does the double bells, like something like this, and she does them for 100 or 110 or 120, you definitely feel it.
And Jerry, I remember you're saying that you were about ready to go.
Yes, I am. I'm about
and
ready.
so you're going to do that on Tuesday evening, correct?
Move up.
Yes, I think so.
That's why they call me Sarge.
You can see they're pumping iron there
Yes.
underwater. And so keeping those bells down, you're having resistance.
Yeah.
For sure, yes.
Jerry, while that's playing, why did you get into water workouts? Did you have a certain thing that motivated you to get in the water?
I actually had been real, sedentary at home, and I needed to get up and exercise. I knew I did, and I hadn't done it for years, and I'd gained quite a bit of weight. And so my doctor told me, why don't you go to the Y and start doing water exercises? And I took his advice, and I just fell in love with it. It was so much fun, and the Y is such a welcoming place, No
How
one.
has it made a difference for you?
Oh gosh, well, I've lost a ton of weight, and I got muscles where I never even had muscles before, and you're just much able to have a lot more energy in your life, take care of yourself.
Sure.
And I'm not going to give out my age, but I'm no spring chicken, but a lot of people think that, we move a lot better than what our age is.
You bet. So you also do a wall workout.
Yes, we
It has
do.
different kinds of leg lifts, working with the weights, swinging the bells. How important is that resistance? Talk about the wall workout. There's side jumps. Why do you do all
Yes. Well, now we've worked up the upper. We've warmed up the upper. Now we're going to start working the legs. We also do a wonderful stretch where we reach for the side of the pool with our arm and we take that back ankle. We do hip. We call it hip cleaner, and your hip is a ball and a joint, and so we're letting that hip go in and out. Again, the resistance of that water. And then we do a figure 8 back, and we are just loosening up. The same thing with the wall, except we're down now at the legs.
And I mean, you're doing a leg lift up.
Yeah.
That's kind of works the core, doesn't it?
Yes, it does, and the core is very important, yes.
How do you choose the order of your exercises? Is there any method to what goes first?
Well, I'm certified in arthrosize. That's where I started. But I needed to push. I needed to work a little harder, so I started researching. And so the program that I have right now is from research. And I start pretty much at the upper, the chest, opening up that chest. And then I just work down. When we get in the deep, it'll be cardio, and then abdominal. Yes, and then
So this is
legs,
getting the
feet,
blood
and ankles.
pumping early on. We've got
Yes,
lifting those
there
legs
we
up,
go.
works the stomach, the core.
Yes.
Then you do head to the deep end, and there's a big difference when you can't put your feet on the ground.
That's correct. Then you're really working those muscles. And then there's a point where we will set the noodles aside and we will tread water. And I like to say, let's dance in the water. And so we do that for, I don't know, maybe 20, 30, 40 seconds until I decide to stop. And then we'll get our noodles back.
That's what they call monkey bells. They're doing that, and then you cross
That's
country
cross country,
skiing.
yes.
And then you even do something called rowboats. Tell me
That's
about
wonderful.
rowing boats.
Now
Why
that
is
is
that such a good
core.
workout?
That's working everything. You're working your arms. You're working your legs. You're working your core. That
Pulling the
is
legs
rowboat
forward
right
and
there.
back, yeah.
Yes. That is wonderful for everything.
It certainly, Jerry. I mean, in that part of the workout, are you breathing heavy by that time?
Yes. Yeah, you are. And sometimes you got a drop of sweat going like this.
Yes.
And in water. And it is a great workout. You get just as much of a workout with the water than you do with machines, except you're not banging on those
Exactly.
joints.
Exactly.
Right. Well, I got involved in the class because of arthritis and joint replacement. It seems I can do more in the water. Tell us about other members of the class. Letha, finally, what kind of physical issues have you heard from them say, oh, this helped?
Yes. As a matter of fact, just the other evening, I had someone tell me that she would go up the stairs sideways, and that she was talking on the phone just recently and found herself going up the stairs just normally. And so she stopped so that I would know that she thought that this class helped her strengthen and her core, and she was able just to go up and down without even thinking about it. So that's wonderful.
It's a great strength building effort. So
Yes.
Finally, when is your class? How can someone join?
Well, you come to the Y and join, sign up, and my class right now is at 5:30 on Tuesday and Thursday, but I think we're going to change it for safety reasons so we can distance ourselves at 5:15 on Tuesday and Thursday, and then Saturday at 10 in the morning. And so, yes, would love to have. And if you are out there and you are thinking, girl, I have not been in a swimsuit for years, and if
Doesn't
you
matter.
think I'm not putting one, if you think I'm putting one on, you're nuts. We can't even see that far. We are so far beyond that. We have our own physical issues. Just come, dance in the water. If you can't dance on land, dance in the water.
All right. Well, thank you both for joining us.
Thank you for
sharing all this
having us.
information.
It was fun.
Appreciate
Enjoyed it.
All right. When we come back, we will be joined by an MSSU student working with physical therapy patients in the water. Welcome back to Newsmakers, where we are bringing focus to water fitness and aquatherapy. Our next guest is Connor Henry, an MSSU student majoring in health promotion and wellness. Thank you for joining us.
Pleasure to be here.
So you're actively working in water therapy. How does that apply to what you're studying here at Missouri Southern?
So aquatherapy really is a great way to show off how the muscles work whenever the environment changes. So oftentimes what we see in water is the big change. Whenever you're on land, you're always doing everything against resistance. That's why things as simple as like a bicep curl, while normally having to go slow, you're putting in more work. However, in the water, the big thing you're fighting is the water. And so whenever you go that, you're wanting to go fast. And so a lot of the dynamics change because you're now focusing on speed and less on control.
People feel buoyant in water. Does that, how do we explain that to folks when there's a difference as to, you don't have that pounding, you don't have that against gravity. So does that make it a more comfortable workout for folks?
Yes. Oftentimes as you go into water, the deeper that you get, the less of your own body weight you're supporting. At about your armpit level, you only support about 30% of your own body weight. This oftentimes means people with joint pain or tightness throughout their muscles oftentimes can have it be alleviated and make them much more comfortable. But then throughout the water, what we can often see is, especially if you go into water that's maybe a little bit deeper, if your feet aren't touching, you can actually get a form of traction. And it's a great way to stretch out the back and to be able to relax it a little bit.
I know I've been in there. It seems like you can do almost anything in the water that you couldn't do on land. So it is very nice. What is your goal for your career? And tell us a little bit about what you're studying here at Southern, when it comes to classes and what that's teaching you and where you're going to be going with that.
So right now, here at Missouri Southern, I'm a health promotion and wellness major. And in the future, I'm studying for physical therapy. Right now, I'm finishing up my senior year, so I've been able to take the majority of things in our degree. I've really enjoyed being able to see some of the different ways that we focus on muscle dynamics, but I think this has really helped me prepare for the future. But looking at specifically aquatherapy, it's really shown me the fact that oftentimes your environment and what is around you can deeply change how you have to do things. And especially for people with chronic pain or other issues, it's a great way to be able to let them exercise without necessarily hurting them.
So you're actually applying what you're learning. You're working with actual patients. Tell us about that experience. Is this an internship or is this kind of a job placement for you? And tell us what you're doing there.
So for almost 2 years now, I've been working at Freeman Rehabilitation and Sports Center. And while I've been their physical therapy tech. And so that means that oftentimes in my day-to-day, I work on trying to make sure the clinic is up to code and keeping everything clean and organized. But what I enjoy the most is that on a few of my days, I get to spend time in the pool. And for the pool, I get to be in there with patients and a therapist. And so the therapist helps direct what we're doing and everything, and my goal is to help make sure that form is good and that they're safe all throughout their treatment. And this exposure really has taught me quite a lot, as I've gotten a lot of exposure to different conditions and adjusting for things such as aquaphobia and other issues. And how do you necessarily deal with that as someone who's trying to help someone?
Yeah. So what are some of the kinds of patients, like what are some of the problems they have that make them good candidates for the water therapy? And is, what are they rehabbing? Is it knees, shoulders? Tell us a little bit about the patients you've worked with.
Some of the most common things that we see are joint replacements. Oftentimes we'll see knees, hips, primarily lower body and back. There are sometimes patients that come in with shoulders, and then we just have to adjust a little bit. The nice part about our pool there is it's actually an elevator. And so while it starts off on ground level, it drops down. So we can adjust it however high or low that we need on someone. And once you start working on upper body, you have to lower them. So then you can work more then. Mm-hmm. But go ahead.
Tell us some of the kinds of exercises they might do. Is it more of lifting the leg? Are we walking in the water? Does that offer the resistance that's needed in a comfortable setting?
Yes. What we oftentimes see as some of our common stuff, we'll typically start off with walking. And the nice part, since it's a treadmill, is that we can go as fast or as slow as we need. And so some patients may start off at a very light trot. And that's just where they're at this point. Some may be coming from a wheelchair, some may be coming on crutches. And so that speed allows us to adjust for where they're at. However, as time goes on, we can start adjusting that, making it faster. We can add jets as resistance or even weights.
So what kind of progress do you see as you work with these patients? You said you might then add weights. Mm-hmm. Do they get stronger as time goes on, and how do you measure that?
Mm-hmm. In terms of practically, the easiest thing to see is whenever they walk in. Quite frankly, it's simple, but whenever someone walks in, as time goes on and more sessions go on and that strength builds up, they start to notice very simple, practical ways that it shows up. But in terms of measuring it, a very clear indicator is whenever we can go into the water, we can see the difference in their range of motion. So where they might only have been able to move it just a little bit one time, now they're able to go a little further and a little further. And it's that slow stretching that allows us to be able to help build up the muscle and stretch it out.
Mm-hmm. How do you know if, lots of people think swimming, how is water good for someone who might be struggling with pain? So is it that there's the buoyancy, does that help? Because on land, it might be hard to move, you're walking on the ground, it's a hard surface. Is there a difference because you're in the water?
Mm-hmm. For the way that you are in the water, you'll naturally end up floating a little bit. Mm-hmm. And that then helps take pressure off of you. Because the big thing we're fighting on ground is gravity. Gravity's always pulling on us, and even in the water it is. But in this case, due to the fact that we have a lot of fat and muscle that likes to float, we're naturally being lifted. And so that helps make us be able to move and have resistance without necessarily pressing on our joints as much.
How does this transfer to solid ground then? So you build up your strength there, then do you still need to take it easy when you get out of the pool? People might feel like, oh, this is great, I can move so great in the pool.
Over time, you build it up, but typically aquatic therapy is that very good first step for people who don't have the strength or necessarily the comfort level to be able to do it on land. And so we typically gauge it upon our ability to see range of motion and their general strength and steadiness. Because if they don't have the strength or steadiness to walk or be able to do things on land, then it's not safe for them, and thus the water would be the best solution.
And it's a safe place to get all that out. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thank you, Connor. Good luck to you in your career and your physical therapy.
Thank you.
All right. Still ahead on Newsmakers, we visit with an instructor in the recreation department here at Missouri Southern, and water fitness says swimming as a lifetime sport, plus from a fellow staff member who makes it part of her daily routine. We're back. Joining us on Newsmakers are Cindy Webb, a longtime aerobics, water aerobics aquatic instructor who works as the fitness director at the MSSU Recreation Center, and Michelle Price, who works in our College of Health, Life Sciences, and Education. Thank you both for being here today.
You bet.
So, Cindy, let's start with you. You taught aerobics, water aerobics for years. What was your primary goal with your water classes?
Well, my goal was always to increase whatever the person's fitness level was, to improve it beyond that. So whether they were a beginner, whether they were advanced, whatever their fitness level was, primarily to improve it and to keep it safe and to make it enjoyable and all the things that have to do with longevity. We want them to be able to stay at fitness for a long time.
So what do you feel are the biggest benefits of water workouts?
Well, the obvious is the decreased impact, and so you have less jarring of the joints. You are not battling against gravity, you're battling against the resistance that the water provides, and in the case of using some of the bells, you're working those against buoyancy, and that is what causes the resistance.
For years, you taught other aerobics
Right.
too. Do you see a big difference in how it affects the body when you're doing, say, squats and, when people used to do kind of kicks when they did
Sure,
aerobics?
sure.
Did you notice even in yourself a difference?
Absolutely. But I really believe that people will show the most progress when they do something different, that they don't do the same thing over and over and over
Okay.
again. So I don't feel like you advance from aerobics, land aerobics, to water aerobics, and I don't think of it in reverse. I don't think you start at water aerobics and then advance to land aerobics. I think of them as two separate things, and if you're used to doing any one thing over and over and over again, your body responds and progresses more if you introduce it to something totally different.
So you might plateau.
Absolutely, yeah.
So variety is a good thing.
Absolutely a good thing.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So Michelle,
Yes.
you do your own workout kind of on your own, but tell me why you decided to get into a water workout.
Well, I joined a 6-week class with a friend many, many years ago. And at the end of the 6 weeks, I realized the benefits it had. And I've just been hooked ever since.
And you're in the pool almost daily?
Oh, 3 days a week, probably.
Yeah.
She's in the pool or she's in the rec center working out. And I've seen her do her workouts for years, and she does not play around.
I do take it seriously.
She gets after it. If she's going to be in the water, she's going to be working hard.
Tell us a little bit about your routine, in the water.
I just picked up several things from classes that I've taken and felt what worked best for me, and then just add or take away from that.
So do you combine swimming and the dumbbells? Tell us a little bit about what you do, even from start to finish.
I do some with the bell, some without. I wear the belt at times and go down to the deeper end of the pool and just do what I feel like my heart rate is up using whatever tools I need.
How long is your average workout?
About an hour.
Really? That's a long time in the water.
Yeah.
That is a long time.
And so do you feel like your heart rate gets up? But
Yes. Yeah. That's what I do in the beginning. My goal is to get my heart rate started in the beginning, and then just it usually ends then in type of toning.
do you feel like you can do more in the water?
Yes. Yes.
Why do you think that is?
Because as Cindy said, you're not jarring your joints. It's much easier for your body to do the different exercises in the water.
How does it feel when you're done? I mean,
Great. It's a great stress reliever. Great.
It's a good workout.
It is.
So anyone holding the dumbbells that we see would think, oh, they're just so light. So how do you utilize them? And what are some of the exercises that one can do with those dumbbells that is a good workout?
Okay. Well, if you think about when you're moving in air, on land moving in air, you don't experience any resistance. You know right off the bat, once you put those limbs in the water and you're moving in the water, you're experiencing resistance, right? The water creates resistance. The water creates more resistance the more energy and force you press against it. So you push against the water with a lot of force, it presses back against you with a lot of force. Anytime you increase your lever length, like going from bent arm movement in the water to straight arm movement in the water, or bent leg to straight leg, anytime you add the webbed gloves, you know, that people use in the water, or if you grab these bells and also use them in the water, then you're creating what we call form resistance or drag resistance, right? Because the bigger the apparatuses that you're pushing against the water, the more resistance that's created.
Right.
And so it really challenges your muscles differently. So again, if you were doing this movement with dumbbells, you're working biceps because you're lifting up against gravity. If you're using the foam bells and doing this movement, you're working more triceps because you're pushing down something that wants to float and not allowing it to float and pushing it down. So you're working against buoyancy.
Do you feel like it's a
working more.
safer environment than some people who might grab a dumbbell? You know, I mean,
It's for sure it's less harmful as long as you have the core strength that keeps you from, you know, tipping over. People working out around you are going to create waves, and
Right.
if you're somebody who's real skittish in the water, scared to be in the water, you know, then it can be problematic because you've got to have the core strength to maintain, you know, your stance and your form. You still have to have correct form in the water.
how is this good as a lifetime fitness measure?
Well,
I mean, there are people who
Okay.
run and there are people who
Right.
do all kinds of things, but we always talk about swimming and water fitness as
Right.
kind of a lifetime fitness.
it is. Well, most people will say that they think of water aerobics as being for old people and overweight people and out of shape people. And that's who they're seeing in the pool. Well, why are those people in the pool? They're in the pool because they're being required and requested to improve their health, and they need a low impact or non-impact way of doing it. If they have blood pressure issues, that your workouts in the water, you can work out as hard in the water as you do on land, but your blood pressure will be lower.
Wow.
You can work out as hard in the water as you would be on land, but your your pulse rate, your heart rate is going to be slightly lower. And I could go into why that is, but so it can be something that anybody can do. And I've taught classes where I had a woman literally that was probably 96 years old in my class.
Wow.
With a college athlete who was in the same class. And they can each get their own individual workout from that because my 96-year-old lady may barely be able to push against the water. So
But
the
she's still
water's
moving.
Exactly. And the water's still resisting back against her with an equal force. Whereas the college athlete is pushing with a lot of force and the water slams back against them with a lot of force. And
Something
so,
for everybody.
yeah.
Well, thank you both for joining us and sharing your experiences and all your knowledge.
Yeah, you betcha.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Next week on Newsmakers, Behind the Backpacks, Send Silence Packing. It's a visual display to call attention to suicide in young adults and the impact it has on families. We will talk with those bringing the display to MSSU, university counselors, as well as mental health support group coordinators in the community. For Newsmakers, I'm Lisa Oligas.